Kentucky cave explorer Floyd Collins has been trapped in Sand Cave. Collins was negotiating a small cavern tunnel when he was pinned by fallen rocks and debris at 10 a.m. on Friday morning. So far, efforts to free him have been unsuccessful.
Imagine being trapped hundreds of feet underground in total darkness, with no escape, as the air turns stale and every hope of survival fades. This isn't just a nightmare, it's the real story of Floyd Collins, a caver whose journey into an unexplored cave became a terrifying fight for his life. It's a story of courage, desperation, and the unimaginable. For Floyd, it ended in a death that no one should ever have to face. In December of 1924, Floyd Collins, one of the most experienced cavers of his time, believed he had made the discovery of a lifetime. Deep in the Kentucky hills, near Mammoth Cave National Park, he found an uncharted cave entrance, hidden from view, yet located tantalizingly close to a popular highway. He named it Sand Cave, and he was convinced it could become a profitable tourist attraction, just like the famous Mammoth Cave nearby. Floyd Collins wasn't new to cave exploration. In fact, he was known for his daring spirit and passion for the unknown. He had spent years exploring Kentucky's underground, mapping caves, and imagining the possibility of turning one into a business venture. And this discovery felt like destiny, an ideal location with untapped potential. Floyd struck a deal with the landowners, securing a share of future profits, and began working to clear a path through the cave's entrance. But Sand Cave had a treacherous design. Unlike other caves, its entrance was narrow and filled with loose, unstable rocks. Still, Floyd was determined. Day after day, he spent hours clearing rocks, digging deeper, and widening the passageway inch by inch. Each day, he brought himself closer to opening a pathway to a chamber he believed could change his life forever. Imagine working your whole life for a dream, only to have it crush you, quite literally. Sounds like something out of a horror movie, right? But for Floyd, this wasn't a horror movie. On January 30th, 1925, he went back into Sand Cave, ready to finish what he started. But he had no idea that this day would be his last journey out of the sunlight. On that cold January morning, Floyd entered Sand Cave alone, carrying only a kerosene lantern. The air was damp, and as he descended deeper, the tunnel walls seemed to close in on him. The deeper he went, the colder it got, with moisture clinging to the walls, and a silence so complete that he could hear his own heartbeat. Deep in the cave lay an infamous passage known as the Squeeze. This tight section was barely 9 inches high, a space so cramped that even children would struggle to get through. But Floyd, undeterred, lay flat, pulling himself forward inch by inch through the smallest of gaps, using his toes to push his body further. Every movement was a battle. The rough limestone walls scraped his skin, and sharp gypsum crystals dug into his clothes. After what felt like an eternity, Floyd squeezed his way through the squeeze and entered a larger chamber. For a brief, glorious moment, he felt he was on the verge of something incredible. This chamber, he thought, could lead to the larger cave system he had always dreamed of. But that moment of triumph was short-lived. Just as he prepared to make his way back, disaster struck. The flickering light of his lantern went out, plunging him into complete darkness. Without light, navigating back through the tight passage was nearly impossible. And as he tried to inch his way forward, his foot slipped, dislodging a loose rock above him. It came crashing down on his left leg, pinning him to the ground, wedged tightly in a crevice. Alone, injured, and trapped, Floyd was now fully at the mercy of the cave. Hours passed in agonizing silence as Floyd lay trapped, unable to move. His leg was pinned under a heavy rock, and every attempt he made to free himself only caused more rocks to shift and fall around him, making his situation worse. The cold seeped into his bones, and he began to feel the numbness of exhaustion creeping in. Floyd screamed for help, his voice echoing through the empty cave, hoping that someone, anyone, might hear him. And after nearly a full day, his calls were finally answered. 2 property owners came to check on him, concerned when they found his coat and hat abandoned near the cave's entrance. They called his name but heard no reply. Eventually, they sent down a young boy named Jewel, who was slender enough to crawl through the narrow passage and reach Floyd. By the time Jewel found him, Floyd was exhausted, cold, and in excruciating pain. His first words were a desperate plea for help. Jewel rushed out of the cave and returned with more help, but they quickly realized the grim reality. Floyd was wedged in so tightly that even with a small group, freeing him would be nearly impossible. Can you imagine waiting an entire day, trapped in darkness, only for your first glimmer of hope to come from a 17-year-old kid? It's like a real-life horror story. Soon, news spread. Crowds began gathering outside the cave, friends, family, and eventually even reporters. Floyd's plight made national headlines. Even President Calvin Coolidge received updates on the situation. But despite all the attention, the rescue was agonizingly slow. Sand caves' tight passages made it nearly impossible to reach Floyd, and each failed attempt left him colder, hungrier, and more hopeless. Days passed, and Floyd's ordeal became a national sensation. Experts from across the country weighed in, offering advice on rescue techniques. Bonfires were set up outside the cave to keep the rescuers warm, but the heat from the fires began to melt the ice around the cave's entrance, causing freezing water to drip down into the passage where Floyd lay trapped. Each drop of icy water added to Floyd's misery, soaking him and sapping his strength even further. Floyd's brother, Homer, was one of the most tireless rescuers. Homer dug through the cave for hours, removing rocks and widening the tunnel, desperate to free his brother. But the conditions were brutal, and each hour Floyd's condition worsened. And then, tragedy struck again. While the rescuers took a brief break, part of the cave's narrow passage collapsed, sealing the tunnel and completely cutting off any access to Floyd. With the cave entrance now collapsed, the rescuers faced an impossible situation. How could they save Floyd when there was no way to reach him? Despite renewed efforts, the rescuers couldn't reach Floyd in time. They dug a new shaft and worked around the clock, determined not to give up. But after days of grueling effort, it was too late. On February 16, 1925, over 2 weeks since Floyd had first become trapped, rescuers finally reached his position. But Floyd was already gone. The nation mourned. People across the country had held out hope that he'd be saved. In the end, Sand Cave became Floyd's tomb. His story left a deep impact, a haunting reminder of the dangers of exploring the unknown and the courage it takes to venture into darkness. The tragedy of Floyd Collins isn't just a tale of a horrible death. It's a story of human determination, the lure of discovery, and the risks people take to chase their dreams. Floyd's name has become legendary, symbolizing the bravery and the vulnerability of those who explore the edges of human experience. If stories like this captivate you, check out my next video, Caver Trapped Forever, the heartbreaking story of Neil Moss. Just click the link on your screen, and don't forget to subscribe for more haunting tales from history's most daring adventurers. Thank you for watching.